This is Lessons in the Challenges of Leadership, the series that enables managers to achieve the remarkable. Podcast, video, short reads, brought to you by Being Learning. Conceived, developed and presented by Siebert Neathling.
In episode 1, we listed the 6 elements of strategy: aspiration, anticipation, evaluation, proposition, commission, and implementation. I emphasized that all 6 are important, and in this episode, we will explore why. To better illustrate the 6 elements of strategy, I've developed a simple graphic to show that the whole is more than the sum of the parts. The purpose is to avoid a purely linear approach. Evaluation, anticipation, and aspiration will usually and ideally precede proposition, but often these are all worked on simultaneously. Most importantly, commissioning can commence even as part of developing the strategy. Let's illustrate this with an example. Whatever your own circumstances and need to be strategic, you'd be able to extrapolate the lessons from this example. So in episode 1, I referred to a forestry company that I supported to develop a strategy. This was a newly formed company, evolved from a former government department of forestry. None of the workers ever expected that they would one day work for a commercial company. They had all joined a government department, mainly because they cared for the environment. Many of them had degrees in silviculture, with quite a few doctorates as well. And most of them were not happy that they were now going to be corporate employees. The company took over some state-owned forests, as well as pine plantations, so they had 2 streams of revenue: the sale of hardwood timber from sustainable logging and management of the natural forests, and the systematic logging of purpose-grown plantations for lumber. I persuaded the leadership to follow a highly consultative approach. This is not always the best way to go, but in this case, I wanted to ensure buy-in from the outset. I visited several forests, some in extremely remote areas, and asked the workers, given that you are now unavoidably a company and not a government department, what kind of forestry company do you want? Their answers were not only insightful, the process helped to make them feel a sense of ownership of the company and of its strategy. Their buy-in, a crucial part of commissioning the strategy, was integrated with the research and development phases. Their answers also helped to inform the aspiration element of the strategy. We then spent a great deal of time analyzing what the former government department had been good at and what it was bad at. This is evaluation. We identified many areas for improvement, like systems, communication, aging equipment, and community relationships. We also identified real strengths, like a sophisticated seed bank and nursery program, and a groundbreaking invasive species eradication program. After that, we explored anticipation. I had prepared some slides on anticipated demand for lumber, new alternative products available overseas, historic and predicted pricing fluctuations, and even the impact of climate change on future forest growth. The highly experienced and qualified participants in my workshops identified many more challenges and opportunities, including the use of drone technology, new approaches to habitat management, bushfire risk management, and the challenge of an aging workforce and diminishing recruitment pools. After these workshops with the frontline foresters, I had enough information to develop some key strategic themes. I presented these to a high-level workshop of managers and organization, and we refined the themes and plans to the point where I could present a good draft of the proposition, the strategic plan. By the way, it was a 5-year plan with look-through to a 10-year horizon, something we don't see often in today's fast-changing world, but it takes a long time to grow trees, and their planning had to be mindful of the long-term future of the company. The plan was finalized and improved by the board, together with a further commissioning section to promote the strategy, explain it to all staff, and align effort and resources to ensure it would be implemented. The document also included an implementation section, committing all managers to an execution, monitoring, and revision regime to ensure the plan was actually implemented. This included some pretty detailed metrics developed by the finance director. Not all processes are as comprehensive as that. But no matter how small or large your team or organization, all 6 elements of strategy must be present. That's why I like depicting it as a strategy cube. Remove one element and it becomes a meaningless shape. Include it all, and the whole is more than the sum of the parts. And this approach applies to all levels of strategy. Use it if you're a strategist for a global insurance company entering a new market, or if you are launching technology to disrupt an established industry. Use it if you are preparing for an interview for a new leadership role, from C-suite through to supervisor management. An example: if you're ever asked in an interview how you would approach a complex problem, let's say how you would turn around a poorly performing team in an organization, use this as your framework. I would evaluate how the team has performed, what it has been bad at, and what areas are positive. I would define what success would look like, what we would aspire to become as a team. I would analyze the environment and context in which the team operates, and what might challenge it or support it as I move towards our ideal state. And based on this evaluation, anticipation, and aspiration, I will then develop a clear plan for improvement, ensuring that the team members can relate to the plan and can see its value. I would ensure the plan is properly commissioned, that is, that everyone understands it and how they could contribute to it, and that we have all the resources to be able to implement. And finally, I will ensure that we actually implement the improvement plan by making it the agenda for regular meetings, incorporating it into detailed scheduling, monitoring progress, and taking corrective action when needed. That would be a pretty good framework for your interview answer. And what about being strategic about your career? I'm sure you would be able to identify the elements of a positive and strategic career approach. What do I want to achieve in life? What is important to me? What am I good at and not so good at? What do I anticipate is going to happen in my profession over the next years? What is my plan, given the above? And how do I ready myself to be able to implement my plan? How do I make sure I implement? How can I keep myself honest? Strategy is not just for businesses. Public service organizations can obviously be strategic. All teams can be strategic. Couples can be strategic. Individuals can be strategic. And this is where I have to qualify the topic a little. Being strategic has many positive connotations, but it can also be seen as something negative, as something inauthentic. Strategically managing a relationship certainly sounds manipulative, and that is not what this series is about. Whereas I cannot prevent an unscrupulous person from using this knowledge about strategy to do harm, I hope to empower good people to be better at doing good things. If your relationship with a relative is a troubled one, why not be strategic about improving it? That does not mean less love or less authentic desire for it to be good. It might mean going about it in a way that is more considered and more likely to succeed. And that would be a good thing. In the next episode, we will look at how to improve your own ability to be strategic. And we will also look at making time to be strategic.